YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
We just started getting word just a couple of moments ago that Charlie KIRK has been shot. We have very few details so far coming in on this. We're dependent on witnesses at Utah Valley University. And he was speaking in front of a crowd. And in that moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was speaking about obviously trans issues in the country today when a shot or shots rang out. And we can now confirm via Jason Chaffetz, who was at the event at Utah Valley University, that shots rang out as Charlie was talking about transgender mass shootings. Per Jason Chaffetz, a witness there says he can't say that he saw blood, but he saw him he can't say also that he saw him get shot, but he did hear the gunshot ring out, and he was watching Charlie, and then he fell back and to the left. We're giving you exactly the details we have from a firsthand account. Jason Chaffetz, what's that? Okay, Utah Valley University. Obviously, we are praying for Charlie KIRK as we do get word of this. Nicole Parker was with us earlier. We're bringing her back on this. Bear with us as we're just getting these brand new details. We pray that he is okay. All that we know right now is that shots rang out. He was apparently shot as he fell back after Jason Chaffetz described the sound of the gunfire. We're waiting on more details.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Sound the PSYOP alarms. As you heard in the Fox News clip, the breaking news that alt-right media COINTEL Pro agent Charlie KIRK was shot. And I'm going to show you the video footage in a minute, but you heard how that was worded on the live news. How he was talking about transgender issues as he was shot in his neck. That is what supposedly occurred. They wanted to let you know he was talking about transgender after, of course, we see PSYOP after PSYOP after PSYOP to bring in red flag laws against transgenders, which are really going to be used against all of us once red flag laws are approved by conservative Christians and Trump brings them in and everybody agrees with it because Christians are now being targeted and conservatives are being targeted. Of course, we know that that'll flip on its head and they will then change the wording of what mental health problems are to the public as conspiracy theorists, and all they'll have to do is create a couple false flags around it like they did at Comet Ping Pong. So you heard the news clip. Now, obviously, we have to look at the footage and we have to see what comes of it before we can decide if it's a PSYOP or a false flag operation. The PSYOP, of course, being a government-created psychological operation for many agendas to come forward. And there's many agendas that are tied to Charlie KIRK and the alt-right media. Lots of the stuff with the transgenders, lots of the stuff with the Muslims on college campuses. That is what we'll pay attention to, because if Charlie KIRK survives this gunshot wound, then we know it's automatically a government operation, because the government is not going to invest all this time and money into Charlie KIRK and the alt-right media, which they have funded from the beginning. They have silenced and removed channels like this from every platform that they can, except for platforms like Rumble or BitChute, which nobody watches because they don't want people to wake up to the fact that the news is simulated and that the left-right paradigm is the biggest problem and creation of the actual deep state. They want you stuck in the left-right. They want the left and the right at each other's throats, stripping one another of their rights day in and day out, and that's what all these stories are. So Charlie KIRK, who started Turning Point USA, who has tie-ins with Donald Trump, who interviews Donald Trump, who is a very wealthy person who they've allowed to become very wealthy because, again, the left-right is fully controlled. Here is the footage as Charlie Kirk was throwing out hats. This is the footage that got out onto the internet and has become viral of Charlie Kirk being shot. Now, it looks from the footage that it could be somewhat real, but again, this is coming from a cell phone. And when we saw Donald Trump get shot, obviously, as soon as he stood up, we all knew what we were dealing with. The second that he stood up and pumped his fist in the air, we knew it was a production. So we will see the aftermath. But take a look at this footage of Charlie Kirk being shot at a Utah University college campus.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh my God. Go, run. Oh.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh my God.
Gang violence. Gang violence. Not counting gang violence. Great. 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 Not counting gang violence. Great.
So sure, you could look at that and you could say it looks real. If you know how these secret societies work, they will put these simulations out there for the greater good, for the greater cause. And if that means bringing in red flag laws and causing more division, as you're clearly seeing right now as Charlie Kirk is shot, a lot of the Democrats are saying, good, couldn't have happened to a better person. And it's getting the conservatives even angrier because they're getting brainwashed now into thinking that the domestic terrorist is a Democrat. And the Democrats believe that a domestic terrorist are conservatives. And of course, they've lumped conservatives in with conspiracy theorists, even though the conservatives are taking government-created conspiracy theorists, or theories, I should say, like Jeffrey Epstein's flight log and QAnon. These are all government creations. They want to link people like us into the right-wing movement and link us in as being domestic terrorists. So they're creating all of these false flag events that we see. Going back even a couple of days ago, I talked about our latest transgender shooting at the church, all the same checkpoints that we look at when we look at government operations, right? We have manifestos. Now we have the common theme of a transgender shooter. We have a common theme of Christians being targeted. We have a common theme of Christian alt-right media conservatives saying that the government needs to do something because these people have mental health problems. Now, nobody disagrees that transgender people don't have mental health problems, but what nobody talks about is how these transgender mental health problems are brought on by MKUltra and mind control programming that is getting fed to them through all these programs that they're watching. They're getting confused about their own gender and everything else. So these guys in the alt-right feed into it. Instead of talking about where this is coming from and why people are trans and why there's more gays and why this and why that and why there's division, all they do is keep everybody divided, and that's what their job is. So you see the image of him, almost looks like JFK with him, popping his neck back. And obviously I feel like this is definitely a psyop because I don't think they will whack him because then, they put all this into him. They're not going to ship him off to Israel to be underground for the rest of his life when he has massive influence. They need these alt-right guys to be influencers. They influence the public, right? Just like Donald Trump in the ear. Well, this will be a neck wound. It'll miss, right? Maybe we'll get the same narrative with divine intervention. We'll wait and see. But the government has invested so much in the alt-right media, it would make little sense to have him whacked. Now, you can look at it and you could say, well, naturally, these people are causing so much division that people are doing monkey see, monkey do. They're seeing these things on TV. They're feeling inspired to go and shoot somebody or go and be an activist with violence because of the mind control programming of these psychological ops the government's created. So we can look at it and we can say, well, the way Charlie Kirk talks and the stuff he talks about, could someone get riled up enough to shoot him? Well, definitely. Definitely. I mean, there's people out there who probably want to shoot me, and I don't even have an audience. So, yeah, I'm sure there's lunatic Democrat people that want to shoot him, but keep in mind the amount of security that Charlie Kirk has. All of these guys, they have just as much security as the President of the United States. This isn't like me or you walking down the road. This is highly covered in security government agents. These aren't just going to be, well, Charlie Kirk has bodyguards and things like that. They have the Secret Service protecting all of these alt-right media people because they're so powerful and important to the government. Just like they have all of these Democrats who, pretend like they're walking the streets, or people like Bill Gates who pretends he's in Times Square. If these people show their face in public, they are fully protected like a president of the United States is protected. There's no way to get near them. So I am fully leaning towards him obviously being alive, guessing that, it'll be, if we hear divine intervention again, I'm just going to puke. But would it surprise you the way that this psyop is going with the left-right, with Donald Trump and Donald Trump being a prophet? Picking somebody from the alt-right media to get assassinated or shot is just something that we all expected. It's been discussed. I've talked about this in the past, that we could expect more psyops, whether it's around Trump or around potential figures in the alt-right media, to martyr them. And they're just going to get more support, like we saw with Trump. The psychosis is unpenetratable at this point. We can't get through to anybody in the alt-right because of that assassination attempt. It was easier early on to get through to them about some stuff. They'd say, oh, yeah, now with the AI governance and everything Trump is bringing in, which is the New World Order infrastructure, nobody's paying attention to stuff that we're all yelling about because of the martyring of Trump and because of the assassination. They believe in their mind that they really wanted him dead. If they really wanted anybody dead, they'd kill them in a second. So for anybody there wondering, some of the stuff with Charlie Kirk, again, he appeared, he started this Turning Point USA, which, it's backed by millions of dollars. Billions probably. It's a media conglomerate. They call it a media operation. They want it to look like an organic YouTube channel or someone like me. Okay, this is uncensored. This is fully funded. These people are on YouTube, just like Russell Brand. These people are not removed, okay? These people aren't wiped off the internet. These people are promoted. They want them there. They need the alt-right and they need the liberal media. That's how they keep people controlled in the hive mind, the left-right paradigm. So these are pictures of Kirk, again, who came out of nowhere when Trump was running for president, the 666 hand sign, right? Everybody gives them a pass because somehow that means MAGA. But if you see Lady Gaga do it, you'll call Lady Gaga a Satanist holding up the 666, right? And we've seen the triangle power, of course, many times, which a lot of the conservative Christians do with their hands, making the pyramid with their hands. He's done it with Candace Owens before, who I know a lot of people want to defend because of the stuff that Candace Owens has said recently about Israel. Look, you aren't hanging out and interviewing the president of the United States unless you're one of them. Always remember that. Candace Owens has interviewed the president. Charlie Kirk has interviewed the president. Candace Owens hangs out with Kanye West, okay? These people aren't more popular than us, okay? We know many, conspiracy theorists who are bigger than these people ever were. They're not more popular, and then those people want to get interviewed by them. They're buddies with one another. This is the system that we're in. This is the matrix, folks, okay? Me or you, we're not getting near a president, let alone interviewing a president. Okay, if you went to a town fair for, a president speaking or candidates who are running speaking on national TV, you wouldn't be allowed. You think I'd be allowed in? And then they give me a microphone, there are background checks. The surveillance that they have on all of us is, it's unimaginable, really. But it's just more proof when these people get near the president and interview the president or at the Republican National Convention that they're all part of the show, which is funded by the CIA. This is the game, right? We even have Jack Poso, which, this guy had been warned about years ago. This guy jumped onto the scene, leached onto Pizzagate when we were all exposing Pizzagate, went to the place and suddenly got promoted and hanging out with all these alt-right guys that came out of nowhere. They came out of the sewers, literally, when Trump became president. They're going to the Republican National Convention. They're the new faces of the media. They're pretending to expose Pizzagate. That's what they all are. So you can even see him making a mockery, right? Illuminati confirmed because of the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill that's underneath Charlie Kirk, which they did right in front of everyone's face at the Republican National Convention. That's what they do. They mock this stuff. These are the same people who mock the hand signs, and they say that's not really, that stuff's crazy lunatic talk. That's because these people have to reveal themselves with signs and symbols. So they want you to think that people like me and others out there in the past who have exposed those things are, lunatics and crazy. But it's true. It's 100% true if you understand how secret societies work. And speaking of which, here's even a handshake with Trump and Charlie Kirk. You could see the Maha bone, the real grip of a master mason, which is what it appears like to me. You can see both their hands clearly on one another's wrists. And like I said, Kirk, got pushed to the forefront of the conservative movement, and he pushes all the same agendas, which we have to look at when it comes to this shooting. Because what narratives come out of it, right? Recently, he's going crazy. Last night, he's on Fox News talking about the story that I just covered with the comical stabbing on that Charlotte train, where the girl's looking around in people's eyes. She's not screaming when she gets stabbed and suddenly falls on the floor and dies. And some people believe it because a puddle of blood appears underneath her. Oh, my goodness. Do you believe that when you go to a haunted hayride, too? Huh? Give me a break. These things couldn't be more simulated. So he's obviously pushing for more National Guard to be brought in. Lots of different laws to be changed because crime's running amok. He's pushing the racial agenda, the black and white. They're obviously pushing the trans stuff with the trans shooter and the anti-Christian hate so they could bring in red flag laws. He's obviously a massive proponent for Israel, which is really all you need to know of these people who align. But again, there's going to be ones that don't align with Israel because it makes them look, it causes more division from within, which is what they want. Even with alt-right conservatives, they want them divided. Are you pro-Israel? Are you pro-Palestine? Oh, okay. Well, Candace Owens sides this way. He sides that way, right? And let them pretend to bicker with one another. Then you choose a side, and we'll keep breaking you guys down and dividing you more, right? Because that's the name of the game. The more you can divide people over every little issue, the less unity there's going to be. So less chance of an uprising or something actually occurring. And Charlie Kirk is even, of course, he's all for these mass deportations. Those are the things that he talks about. These are all trigger points, okay? The border was a government creation so they could bring in digital IDs in the future, pass new laws, do these things with ICE that they're doing, which really could be used against people like us. And even recently I covered in a video on the website talking about how Charlie Kirk, saying robots can now pick apples, right? How convenient that these guys are all pushing the AI revolution, which the government is going to run through AI governance, like Klaus Schwab and all you guys have been telling you for years. What a coincidence, right? Replace the Mexicans, replace the immigrants who are working illegally on the farm with robots. They're not going to take your job. It'll start there with the immigrants and then work to the rest of us, right? Of course, they're all pushing the same exact stuff. So we'll see what comes out of it. Again, if he survives the shooting, as me recording this, there's no mention if he's alive or not. But by the time you hear it, it's probably going to be out there. If he survives, trust me, it is a government operation. And then you'll watch from there about this. Remember a lot of the stuff on the campuses about pro-Palestine, people on college campuses, Muslims on campuses. That's still a big issue. It's a big issue as far as rights go and civil rights and what they're going to do and how they're going to, how can they warp people's minds into looking at the domestic terrorist as this type of person or that type of person. And eventually, whatever it is now, eventually it's us. So when they talk about red flag laws and trans people, right? And again, if the shooter's trans, you can just guarantee that it's a government operation, okay? Because that's all the alt-right media has been talking about. I've been talking about on the website. They're feeding you that narrative because they want red flag laws. So the alt-right media has to convince conservatives that Trump should pass a bill that says people with mental health problems should have guns removed, shouldn't be able to buy guns. And everyone will agree, well, trans people have mental health problems because that's common sense that they do. No one will feel sympathy about how they develop these problems because, of course, most of these people act like narcissists, so nobody has sympathy for them, and I don't blame them. But it's your government who's created this. That's why there's trans people now, and there weren't more than 10 tranny people in a state 50 years ago, 100 years ago that didn't even exist, okay? We all know that they have mental health problems. The point is to pass laws that give the government the right to come and take guns from people that they deem mentally unhealthy. And they're going to change those laws as time moves on. Once it's in place, that's what matters most. That's what they're trying to implement. Get National Guard into these Democratic states so conservatives ask for it without realizing they're bringing in martial law. Flip the president. Put in some psycho like Gavin Newsom. And then who's the terrorist? Conspiracy theorists, people who search for this online, people who read that online, people who question Israel. Oh, that's how this game works. So if he survives, and again, the footage looked, whatever. You say it will look real. Well, when you see Trump standing on a stage and just falling back to the ground, when you see it for the first time and you see it in real time, you're going to go, oh my gosh, they shot him, right? But if you're awake, you're obviously going to start laughing because you know what they're doing. And when he stands up and holds his ear, and pumps his fist and then is speaking publicly the next day, and or a couple days later at the Republican National Convention, he's treated like Jesus Christ returned to earth. Then you go, oh, this is why they do it, right? Because this is what they produce. This is manufactured heroes, right? They're producing these people so that these people can influence your behavior and influence the things that they want to implement by making you want red flag laws, by making you want, Palestinian, become more pro-Israel. Oh, the terrorists or anyone who's anti-Israel. Well, what a coincidence, right? But don't forget about the Noahide laws, how this all works. Because in the Noahide laws, okay, if you read the fine print, people who blame the Pharisees for murdering Jesus, who say anything about the synagogue of Satan in the book of Revelation, will be considered anti-Semitic, and those laws will be used for you. So pay attention to whether or not he survives or not. If he is dead, I still wouldn't be surprised if it's a psyop. If he is dead, but we have to see what comes out of it. Does he die? And then they make all these laws for him so that, to honor his name, we're going to make these laws on college campuses. We're going to make these laws about who could buy guns, make laws about who's a mental health case and who isn't because of Charlie Kirk. Well, that's another way they could go. You got to see with all these events what comes out of it. It's easy to look at it and automatically go, a psyop, because most of these things are, right? But you watch the narratives out there, just like the clip I played in the beginning. The woman on the news had to make sure that she said he was speaking at that time. I'm getting word in my ear about transgender issues. Oh, how convenient. He's only on Fox News every day talking about transgender stuff. Gaslighting, working people into a frenzy, into division. Why? Well, so they can pass these red flag laws. And this might be the psyop that actually gets it done. I'll cover this in more detail depending on what comes out of it, but I wanted to cover it for everybody out there. Hope you're all doing well. Thanks for being here. God bless all of you as always and your families.